Oh, you bastard. I might need these tissues.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Being Vulnerable. Got a special guest for you all. Um, Paula, aka Scarlet Devil, Lyra,
I,
if I'm saying that right.
I think so. I don't
Lyra,
know.
Lyra.
Yeah. Well, I didn't actually choose that name. That came about as I've just, had my other IG account closed down because apparently I'm terribly naughty. Um, and it was like, well, I don't know what to call myself. And so I put it out there in threads. A few names got thrown around and then it got mashed together. And hey, presto, that's my
Nice.
name.
Well, I am Chris, aka Carpal Tunnel. I always get those mixed up, and thank you for being here for being vulnerable. Um, so Paula, tell everyone where you're from. Tell everyone who you are, where you're from, what you do, why you're so famous within the Threads community.
I don't know about famous. Um, I'm from Tasmania, Australia, which kind of shocks a lot of people because obviously it's just all on a computer screen. And until like I voice note, which I forget about sometimes, it's happened recently. I'll just drop a voice note in there because, I can't be bothered typing or whatever. And they're like, oh my God, that accent. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that you didn't realize that I have one of those. It's kind of normal for me. But anyway, people get quite shocked. Um, but yeah, I don't know. What do I do? I do art stuffs and am a big supporter of nearly everyone in the Threads community, regardless of what they do. At the moment, I'm doing a 30-day squat challenge. And this is like how much of a different support I'm offering people. Um, yeah, one of the guys that I come across on there, he's doing the 30-day squat challenge and he tends to be a little unmotivated sometimes. And I'm like, righto, I'll support you. I'll do it as well. Not the best decision I've ever made, but by Jiminy's, I'm going to get there and finish those 30 days and be laying on the floor after my 100 squats on the 30th day. But that's okay. I will do it.
Yeah. Squats. It it takes a good week to get the fire out of your hamstrings, but then it gets a lot easier, and then you're like, now I got to put weight, and you got to start doing weight and stuff. But yeah,
I'm doing
squats
that too. Real good.
squats have a magical thing in a way where it releases a certain hormone that actually goes to every muscle in your body. Um, and that's what is the burning feeling from your hamstrings of squats is like you're working out this like I forget exactly what it is, but yeah, that's why squats is so big in the sports community. But even if you're not like weightlifting, if you're just doing squats, it's releasing that hormone to fight fat and fight. Um, it's basically pumping up every single muscle in your body. Um, so like it's like one of the most healthiest things to do. But the first week, actually, I think it might be the first 10 days, you just get that burning feeling.
I'm smashing it. And I don't know whether it's because I currently don't have a couch and I've got to get down into a beanbag and up from a beanbag that my legs are so used to doing this anyways. That like I'm on day eight. Day eight? Yeah, day eight. And it was like 25 squats. And I'm like, yep, still cruising along. My legs are feeling it a little bit, but yeah, there's only been one day that has been terribly bad, but that's because I decided to walk upstairs at work for the day instead of just, taking the lift like any other normal person would do. And then got up the next day to do my squats and went, no, no, my legs don't love me anymore. They actually really fucking hate you. And that was a really stupid, stupid idea while you're doing this challenge. Don't ever do that again.
I don't
Ever.
actually know the challenge. So Are you doing 100 squats every time, every day?
No. So it starts off day 1 and 2, you do 10, 3, 4, 15, and then it keeps going up. So day 20, you've hit 60. By day 26, don't laugh at me. By day 26, you're doing like 80. Day 30, I've got to do 100. And I did not sign a contract for this thing. So if I'm breaking that up into squat sections through the damn day, then that's what I'm doing, because it still is the support that was there in the first place. And I'm still doing the 100 damn squats for the day, just not all together.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at this challenge because that is the prison, that's the jail squat thing that they actually do.
So I'm
So they
doing
do it
jail squats. Wonderful.
they do it every day, like for the first, and it's I know this from my brother who in jail, if you have a pack of cards, they'll do it with cards. So they put down 10 cards on the floor your first day, and then you have to like squat down, pick up a card, and then move to the next one, squat down, pick up. And they do that. But after 30 days, you get to 51 cards, and then you have to do it twice. And then you keep doing that, and it's where you're like doubling. But it's more than just a 30-day challenge. It's like you know, you do it every day while you're in jail, but it also because the hormones and stuff that it releases, squats do it does help you get through the day more, and it makes you physically exhausted to sleep more and stuff like that. But yeah, that's you're doing the 30 days in American
Squat
jail
challenge. Let's not
challenge.
call it a jail challenge. It's a squat challenge.
I just wonder if whoever made this squat challenge actually pulled that from jail. But it does make it easier though if you do it with playing cards, do it with something picking up because the physical act of actually like okay, one, picking it up makes it easier than if you're doing it off a wall. Uh,
So I'm doing them yesterday, and I'm like counting, because you count while you're doing your squats, because you don't want to overdo them unless you have to. And I'm counting, but I still get distracted while I'm counting and go, what number was I up to? So I think I ended up doing 30 yesterday anyways. And I'm like, I'm not even at 30. Don't do this to yourself. What are you doing? Like,
that that's why you use the cards because squatting is a certain um so you're not using weights and this isn't weights isn't a part of it. So
no, I've just started using
that,
weights as I yeah.
that's
We've
probably
thrown
what
them in too.
why you're not feeling the burn yet like that because it so they're building you up so you're not gonna get that burn sensation because you get thrown into weightlifting and then you got even if it's something as simple as it's 45-pound bar with it's like 180 pounds um and you're they're the ones counting for you and if you get five then you're doing five and then you have to take days off too so that's why it's a lot also difference
Rest
because
days.
you have rest
Or
days on there.
4 of them. Yeah,
Okay.
4. That's generous, isn't it? 4 fucking rest days.
Well, if you're not putting weight on it, then it, you're building up to it. So it's a very healthy thing with you're probably only getting a little bit of that hormone. But the hormone with the squats thing has to do with the fact that your whole body is putting this weight on it and then you're having to push with your entire body upwards. And like it's the type of hormone that is released with people who have like very high adrenaline and they could lift a car and then someone just gets out from underneath it. 'Cause it's a hormone that gives you super strength in a way at certain times, but when you're doing squats, that's basically what you're doing is you're giving yourself you're tricking your body to think that it has to move to get this weight off your shoulders and it has to like stand it up. But that is something I never thought I'd talk about on being vulnerable. That that is more weightlifting training shit that I had learned from because I was always such a skinny guy and I had to learn how to give more hormones to my bodies when I'm my body when I'm weightlifting, especially since like my upper body is not the strongest. It's always been my lower body, so I've always had so much strength in my legs, probably because they're so long. So I was always able to out squat these people who could out bench me, and I was able to do like the things that are more powerlifting things that involve your entire body because I'm relying on my legs. But yeah, I mean, this is good little kickoff with um I was always kind of bullied in a way by the football team by how much I could bench press because I couldn't bench press like an actual football athlete. I'd be bench pressing like 4 years underneath me, like someone who had undeveloped muscles. And it it would always make me try more, and especially if I'm working out with someone who could work out with like if my workout partner was someone who could lift heavy, I would always try to put on that masculine thing and be like, all right, I'll go put on 45 weights on each one just because that's what they were doing, and I'd always get myself caught in these like weight I couldn't get off me, and I would always be like, no, I got it. And I'd be basically straining myself, injuring and tearing muscles, trying to just m meet what would be considered a strong football player. Because 45s on each side, that's kind of like freshman level what you get in high school. Like you work up enough, you could do the 45s, and then you keep going on. And I was on 45s my senior year of high school. And even when I went to college playing college football and basketball, I could not get past that. But it's just my pec muscles are not made for that. Um, but then I would be doing like 350 in squats and power cleans. And power cleans is where you like grab the bar and you get it here and then you lift it up. That's what you
Yeah.
always, the Olympic one. And I would be doing way more than all them, but I would still get picked on because I couldn't do the bench press. Like it was, but I would always hurt myself trying to make them happy. And it felt like that was a good little side note for
It was.
the squatting thing.
I I grew up essentially grew up on a farm, I guess. Um, so I'm quite strong anyway. Um, and that used to surprise people because they didn't realize the strength that I actually had until I showed it. Um, arm wrestling in the pub was a big one. Arm wrestles, love arm wrestles, they're fun, especially when you can show up the guys because they're like little weak things, or just the fact that I was stronger than them. I don't know. It's the thing. I'm not a girly girl. I don't know how many times I tell people this, but I am just not a girly girl. And I think that is because I grew up on a farm. Like, I've never really been into wearing dresses. It just feels not normal. Not normal. It's not a thing. I don't like it. I went to a private school.
You went to a private school.
I went to a Catholic, a Catholic primary school and high school.
And
Um,
and being the strong woman that you probably already were back then, but you are, how like how was that experience with I mean, I don't know at all the culture of Tasmania, so I'm a little ignorant in this conversation of
I
farmland
don't. I
versus if there's even city girls that went to your school, or like, if everyone is just so used to defending and fighting alligator or crocodiles and giant
don't
snakes.
even have
Um,
crocodiles down here in Tassie.
well,
Snakes we have, but not crocodiles. No,
Tasmanian tigers.
I think our big culture, and it probably is the same everywhere, was there was the cool kids and the not cool kids. Well, I probably found myself in the middle of all of that. Um, Probably not so much in primary school. Like I had two good friends in primary school, and that was it. But it was never a big concern for me. And then I hit high school, and I was probably still in the not cool kid category, but that didn't bother me either. It wasn't until maybe 15 that things changed, but I still wasn't cool, and I never would be cool because I was chunky. Chunky people aren't cool. And I used to get picked on a lot for my weight. Um, that probably never really bothered me too much either. I sort of just went with it. Not generally a person to care too much about what people think of me as much as back then I probably wanted to fit in as well. But it was never about that. I mean, I started smoking when I was 14, 15. And that was more of a trying to fit in thing than anything. So yeah, there was all of those sorts of pressures. Yeah, but weight was never something that bothered me too much. But you would see high school was so superficial now that I look back on it. Like people just thought that they were so much better than you because, you know, they weren't overweight or they didn't look like that or they owned these clothes or, they did whatever. And I just look back now and think how lucky I was to be the person that I am and that I didn't grow up around the cool kids because being a cool kid costs a lot of money. And we didn't sort of have a lot of money, but I didn't care. I did my own thing. I've always done my own thing.
I mean, you just hit on like multiple different little sub things we could talk about. Um,
Multiple little
is
somethings.
in so I mean, this is my experience. I'm not sure if it's all across America, but from people I have met, it actually might be is um because I always had nicknames like chicken legs, skeleton, stretch, because I didn't have any meat on my bones. I was like lanky, skinny kid, and that like there was kids who were overweight, and then there's the lanky, skinny kids, and they were not considered like your typical American body, like, and that's what made me want to lift a lot and do that, to try to get muscular, because that is where a lot of the or someone who just has a bit of meat on their bones, but they're not like you can't see their bones, like you see my bones, and I'd get picked on for that, called chicken legs. My dad was called that too because he had the same. My dad did was just like me, but he went into like powerlifting and got all giant and big, be, and it had a lot to do. And this is like 30 years difference that we both still had the same like nickname, chicken legs. Um, um, but there's a certain weight limit that you get to in America, and then you're kind of ostracized. But like the people who were like a lot bigger, that were heavier, who were taller, they were like kind of like the gangsters, or like the offensive linemen for the football team and stuff like that. And they were still in the popular crowd, and they they weren't looked at a certain way because they had muscle with them. And yeah, I mean there's there I mean there was some times where I would like I I would I mean this is kind of embarrassing, but this was like in middle school, which I think you called primary school or something like that.
How old are you in middle school?
Um where like because I always wore long sleeve stuff, I would put extra padding under my arms and stuff so I could look big while I'm on the field. Because me being all skinny and lanky, I'm not gonna scare the other team, and that was like a big part of looking big is so I would stuff padding basically and like extra arm sleeves under my long sleeves so I looked a lot bigger and I could like have this cert and yeah like everyone like even my dad and everybody would be like you look so giant on the field and I'd be like yeah but no really I was padding myself
Than yourself.
because I'm so bony if I get a helmet to my elbow or my arm like that's the most painful thing because I didn't have enough padding so I was also that kid who had so much extra padding I had to wear like rib cage protectors underneath my which like I was like the only one wearing and no one had these like rib cage protectors but it's because a helmet to my ribs not only could just break my lib it could kill me lib my rib because I live into the lib a rib into the lungs that's why, because it's a lung. I was getting the two words mixed up, but yeah, that could kill me. So I would always have to have extra padding. But me being 6'2", I was always able to kind of make it look like that was part of me. Um,
Yeah.
Instead of being the lanky little skeleton that everyone knew me as on my team. This was more for to look big compared to others. Because when you look small in football, they're the person that they're not going to be scared to hit you. They're going to actually go after you. Like you always go hit the small person, and then once they get hit, they're not going to be as good as they are because they're going to be afraid of the pain. The smoking to be popular thing.
Ah, yes. I,
Uh,
I was I was a big one for peer pressure in different kind of ways though. Smoking to be cool because I wanted to be one of the cool kids, but not like the cool kids. Just one of the cool rebel kids. Let's go with that. You know.
yeah, the outliers.
Yeah.
Because being cool in that crowd was like a different type of respect compared to like
Yeah.
the popular crowd. So it was similar then in the experience because like the popular crowd with in my generation and place the popular crowd with the cheerleaders and football players if you smoked you were looked down upon and stuff like they looked at they looked at you like you're a criminal if you're having a cigarette and technically you're under 18 so you're not supposed to be smoking cigarettes out here.
Yes. See, we didn't have that. It was just before my 16th birthday, which I was so pissed off about. Because at 16, it was illegal for you to smoke. And just before my 16th birthday, they changed it to 18. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me? You know, but that's okay. I had ways and means to buy my own. It wasn't a problem. It never was a problem. Always had smokes.
It was never a problem for people who wanted to smoke like and then there was always the 18-year-olds who were held back 2 years or something like that from school. Yeah, like, and for some reason, they were like the popular kids in those crowds of like the popular crowds that were not athletes, who were more like the party people that people surrounded. They were usually sometimes too like the drug dealing kid or like or they were just the kid held back a couple years that were older than everybody, get everybody what they need. Um, yeah, those kids were my brothers.
Yeah.
Those kids were my brothers because they were both held back for multiple years, and they were like brother right above me. He was in eighth grade when I was in sixth grade, but it's because he was held back 2 years, and then my brother above him was like he would have been in high school at the time, but he kind of dropped out. But so like they had this whole community of people from like 6 years, 6 different years, like ages wise, and they were the cool kids because not only did Like we lived like 2 blocks away from the school, so everyone would ditch school and go to um, hang out with that brother who already dropped out of school. And so then my brother, who was in 8th grade with me at that time, he his friends would go with them, and they'd all go to this place they called the Spot, which is in my was in my backyard, and that's where everyone would go and smoke weed. And through that, though, they would also go there and make music. Um, I haven't talked about my brothers as rappers on the show, but my brothers had a they were like an independent rap group within Colorado at the time, and they were pretty big within the community of like Thornton, Colorado, and the North Metro is what you'd call that area. They were called Sweat Records, Smoke Weed Everyday Records, and so they were the most popular kids through like 4 different years of schooling. Like the 8th graders, the 9th graders, 10th graders, 11th graders, and 12th graders. Like all of them, they wanted to be a part of their crew. And I was a 6th grader seeing all this, so I was able to kind of be a part of it in a way, but they would keep me away from all the weed and drugs and alcohol and the gang violence and all that stuff. But all of the older people knew me, and I was popular within their crowd. But in my crowd in 6th grade, the people who didn't know about my brothers and like what they actually controlled in the hood, like I was still being bullied and picked on by them. And when stuff came down to like, I'd be like, you don't know who my brothers are, and I'd say their names and whatnot, or say, the gangs and stuff they're affiliated with. No one would care. No one would. They were like, you're just making shit up. And yeah, so like the older people didn't pick on me, but the people my age were the people picking on me, and it it always also made me seem weak to them when I'd be like, I'm gonna get my brothers after you, when these people are like my same
Yeah.
age. But I was a lover, not a fighter. This is like me at my Pokemon days and my very getting into comic book days. Also, at the same time, though, in a different part of the neighborhood, I'd be like the I'd be famous as the best athlete because I was playing. Because in those grade levels, you're not playing for the school, you're playing for
We
like
call it club.
yeah, like clubs, like but
Yeah.
they're like throughout the city, and everyone knew me
Yeah.
there. No one knew me as weak or anything like that. They knew me as like the best basketball player or like one of the best quarterbacks and stuff like that for football and or baseball. I was really good at baseball at the time. Um, so I was like living in 3 different communities at the time, and one of them treated me like shit. That whole crowd of my brothers and everybody, like they thought I was cooler if I didn't smoke because I was the athlete. So like they kind of were like, if we ever see you smoking a cigarette or smoking weed, we will beat your ass. But you're an athlete, so you're allowed to drink. We'll go buy you alcohol. Here's a bottle. Stick to that. Um,
But did that not make you more determined to want to smoke and then want to smoke drugs? Because that would be me going, you've just told me I can't, so now I'm going to have to go and do that.
I looked up to my brother so much that no,
Mm.
it was because I was around the same friends I was talking about that I was you know played with on the sidewalks and stuff. They all started smoking weed around 8th grade. I didn't take my first hit of weed until like my sophomore year of high school, and they would be smoking around me, and I'd just be like, no. I would always say no to it. Um, and I mean, I said no to cigarettes for the longest time, but it was like my sophomore year. I think it was around a time where it was like summer during the summer, so no sports were happening. And I think I was like going through heartbreak and I was all drunk. We had drank a bunch. So that was like my first hit of weed I took because I was all drunk, which you don't never take your first hit of weed when you're drunk. It's going to give you the
No,
spins.
no,
Um,
no. Smoke before you drink. You got to know the rules, man.
Yeah, it's gonna give you the spins, and then I was
Mhm.
that was a night of blacking out and being sick and all that shit. But it I didn't really become a stoner until it was ar- around like my senior year of high school, where I started having um depression and like fits of anxiety. It was when my ADD was kind of catching up to me because I wasn't taking my pills that they had kind of given me earlier. When I found out weed was helping with my anxiety, I was like, "Holy shit!" And I started smoking before practices, and it was helping me. It was helping me not have anxiety on the field and anxiety with like I didn't smoke before games, but I smoked before practices all the time because practices was a place where it was like I didn't want to be there because of how I was treated by coaches and all this stuff, but it was giving me anxiety. But I'd smoke before that. No one would know. Basketball though, when I hit basketball season, and I know I'm talking a lot, but
Yeah.
this isn't a story I've told either. I got kicked off my senior year basketball team, um, because of a professor who told me that I smelled like weed, and then I ended up like getting called to the counselor's office or whoever was dealing with that shit, and they had me like scrub my hands together for like a minute, and then they smelt it, and they said it smelled like weed, and I because it all happened after a day of like it was like I went home for lunch and I played like rock band with my brothers for like a good 30 minutes during lunch, and I was all over the equipment, and I had like all of this because they were smoking. I had all of this like weed smell all over me. So I did go in there smelling like weed, but that day I did not smoke weed because we had team pictures that day, and I was like I can't be high during not playing sports and stuff. People are gonna know I'm high, and I I ended up being expelled or not are suspended for school for like a week, and then when I went back, they the basketball coaches were there, and they were like, we're gonna kick you off the team. um and I actually lost it because this is my senior year, the thing I've worked up for the most. I was a starting varsity small forward, and I basically ruined my chances of going out from high school into college for basketball, and and it was the day I didn't smoke. But like I really became a stoner after that. Um, the whole the whole thing with the popper thing though is that like the two most popular kids in our high school at the time, who was the point guard and the center, um, on our basketball team, they actually sold weed, but I couldn't really snitch on them and being like, "You're gonna kick me out," when the two, well, the two like
Most
star
important team
athletes,
members.
they're the ones who sell me the weed that I smoke because like they were the biggest stoners, and yeah, like I was kind of put as a point of like no one believed me, and then I ended up passing a drug test, but I did that with fake pee. But they were finally like, okay, once I passed that, like it was through a month of all of this stuff, and they were like, we'll have you back on the team. But I was already betrayed by the coaches, by everybody there, and then I became also now a ostracized like athlete because everyone looked at me like, oh, I ruined the basketball team. I because I came from playing with them since like seventh grade, and I was always a starter on the team. And I was like, yeah, I that sent me down the deepest depression where I was like basically started drinking, skipping school, doing all this stupid shit. That's when I started to actually hang out with the gang members and all this stuff because I lost the thing I worked for the longest time, and I think that was the change that I never like actually healed from until later on after college and stuff because I did get to go on and play college football after that because I had my football stuff. And with my football stuff, I was able to get put onto a basketball team and play college basketball like a year later in Lamar, which you kind of saw a little of the story when in Paranormal Stories. But I I was never the star athlete anymore. I was just kind of like a add on or a walk on, and like it definitely changed the whole trajectory of my life. Trajectory. And like from that day on I was always a I would smoke weed every day, I'd drink every day. It was the first time I actually really felt depression.
I was smoking, but I don't suppose that, like, smoke cigarettes. I don't think I started drinking till around 15. And that wasn't with the kids that I was going to school with. This was just like neighborhood. I suppose we're not kids then, we're teenagers. um, yeah, the people I used to hang around with, like where I lived and stuff. Um, don't know how old I would have been when I started smoking Puna, maybe 16, 17. And I didn't like it anyway. And this was just a whole big trying to fit in thing as well. Um, but I would, not lots, because I didn't like the way I felt when I was stoned. But, let's do it anyway, because that's what everyone else is doing. And not a person to give up a challenge or be proven wrong, because I'm not. We're all smoking one night, and this guy had loaded up the bong, and it was an absolute dumper of a cone. And he's like, "You won't pull it." "Yeah, I will." "No, you won't." I'm like, "Yeah, I will." It near killed me, but I pulled that cone quite proudly. I was more stoned than I'd ever been in my fucking life. The next thing you know, the guys have all got the munchies. I'm not a munchie person. I get stoned. You don't hear boo out of me for the rest of the night. That's it. I'm done. Because I can't talk to you. Because what if I can't form a sentence correctly and it all comes out sounding real weird, because then they're just going to pick on me? Don't talk. I've got the dries. But you can't have a drink, because what happens if you pull the bottle up to your lips and it all fucking runs down your face? Just don't have a drink. Everything will be fine. So this is me when I'm stoned. I just sit there. We're all good. So we've gone for this drive to this 24-hour takeaway place. And this guy is sitting in the seat next to me, and he's like talking. I'm like, "Who are you talking to?" And he's like, "I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the ghost behind you." And I'm like, "I know what you're trying to do." Like thinking this in my head, going, and it's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to spin me out. I'm not going. And I'm like, "Shut up." And he's like, "Who are you talking to?" He's like, "I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the ghost behind you." Had enough of this. He gets out of the car because he realizes that he's not going to win that one on me. Jumps back in, and he's got all this food. "You want something to eat?" I'm thinking, I can't fucking drink. How do you expect me to fucking eat? Like, that'll be all bad. But no, I end up having some chips. This is all good. Then I throw the biggest fucking whitey anyone could possibly ever fucking have, right? I am crook as a fucking dog. And I'm like, I need air. This is what I need. I need to get out of the car. I need air. I'm like, managed to form the sentence of, I'm just going for a walk. And I duck down this side street, and there's this huge, like, wire fence there. And I am so fucking sick. And there are cops just up the road because they've pulled up because they're hungry as well. Everyone else has sort of calmed down now because the cops are there. I'm still throwing this fucking whitey. And I lean up against the fence and I'm trying to spew, but it gets lodged in my throat and it won't come up and it won't go back down. And then the panic's hitting in. If you don't do this, you won't be able to breathe, then you will die. The cops are just up the fucking road. You need to do something. And this, like, it felt like fucking forever. I'm sure it was only like seconds, but it felt like forever. And ended up throwing up. Thank fuck for that. And have never touched it again because no, just no, no more after that. That was enough. But that's what you get when you won't be proven wrong by boys and, accept their challenges.
It was the first time I smoked something that would be considered chronic, like stronger. It's not the dirt weed. And this was during that whole moment in my senior high school where I was smoking. I went home for like lunch. Like I said, we had like lived like 2 blocks away, and one of my homies, recipes David, he showed up to find. He was looking for my brothers. They weren't there, but I was there, and he was just like, "Oh, you want to smoke? I got some really good shit." And it was at the time where I was just like, "Yeah, fuck it, I'll do that." Take a hit of this weed that some of the strongest stuff I ever had, but it was before I had strong stuff. And then they just left, and then I had like I had like 5 minutes of like, oh, I'm getting high, and then all of a sudden everything went into Gumby vision. Do you know like claymation? And I literally sat there for like the whole like because I had 2 classes left after that lunch period, and that whole class of the one right after that, I just sat there and looked in the mirror, trying throwing water on my face, and I could not. My whole face was numb, like it was something, and then also my throat, like it felt like I couldn't swallow, and I was having like very bad. I I almost put myself into a panic attack, or I did, but and then I finally got enough ready because I know I had to go to that eighth period class because I had like a test and hopped in my car for to go that little 2 blocks. I parked outside of the school and then it just got even horrible. Like everything seemed like it was moving fast around me in claymation, but I was moving really slow. And I tried to step out and walk, and then I was crossing some people that were leaving, and like it looked like everyone was staring at me, and I freaked the fuck out. Got back in my car and drove home, and ended up missing that test and whatnot. But I didn't touch weed for a long time after that. Later on, finding out that it was because I had never touched like strong ass weed. Um, yeah, like because I ended up seeing other people who touched strong weed for their first time, and then them doing the same exact stuff, like feeling like they were gonna have a heart attack, feeling like they were choking. Um, like for some reason, when you hit that weed, you could hear your heartbeat. People think, yeah, it was yeah that experience of your first time hitting something that, and you did it out of a bong, probably. I don't know if that was the strongest weed, but doing it out of a bong.
Yeah. I mean, I never smoked a lot of joints. Always smoked bongs, and it was always I sort of started off on reasonably strong weed, so that was the norm for me. But I used to feel like I had more control when I was blind drunk, which clearly I didn't. But when I was blind drunk compared to being stoned, because I didn't like the way I felt when I was stoned. Like it was almost like my ears were blocked and I was underwater. That's how my head would constantly feel, like it did weird things to my hearing. Um, and as I said, along with the whole big let's not talk, let's not drink, let's not do any of these things. And I used to just sit there and be quiet. And one of my friends had later on, years on, had said, we're going to have a joint. I said, oh man, this is bad. She should never have been allowed to smoke ever. She was bad. Do you want some? It's different when you're around different people. It will, the company you keep will be how it works for you. I thought, oh, it's been a while. Cool. So I have a couple of puffs on this joint, and she starts skitzing out. So I'm sobered up straight away because she's skitzing out. And I was having a great time up until then. Like, it was the best time I'd ever had when I was stoned. Everything was smooth. And it just wrecked the whole moment because she was doing weird shit. And I'm like, okay, that's it. No more. No more. And so I just stuck to drinking.
Have you always been an open book?
No. Well, I'm more of an open book now than I probably have been when I was younger. It depended on who I was talking to. Now I just don't care. Ask me a question, I'll give you an answer. You could ask me the most insane question, and I might need to censor the answer, but I'd still give you an answer. When I
And
was younger, I probably come back to the being cool thing as well. There's probably stuff that didn't need to be said because, that wouldn't be cool. But yeah, but now I'm different. I'm very different. I'm very different to the person I was 18 months ago. I'm very me now.
do you remember when you became an open book?
No? How's
So
that
was
for
it
an answer? I
so
wouldn't have a clue.
it wasn't like
I'm
a
I'm probably more, I've always been reasonably outgoing. Um Now I'm just probably more outgoing than I was. I think that has a lot to do with being on Threads as well, because before Threads, I didn't really have a lot to do with social media. I had a Facebook page, but that was only like full of friends and things like that. There was never any sort of random strangers out there that I spoke to. So getting into Threads, it was like stalkery tendencies. No, I'm joking. It wasn't like that at all. But I'd sort of hang back in the sidelines until I found an opportunity to jump in. And then I realized that you can't do that. You've actually got to get in there and interact with people. And so I started doing that. And now I just smash my way into people's lives. And if you don't like it, you know where the block button is, because that's how I am now. It's like, yeah.
what about like interpersonally with like, people that you work with or people you're around?
Yeah, open book with them too.
And
I think that once it changed, it changed overall. There is no censor with it, because I don't know, I am who I am, and how am I trying to say this? What you see is definitely what you get. There is no, this is it all of the time. This is it. Like, yeah, except for like when I've got to be proper and stuff, and then there's no swearing, and then there's like dress swearing and makeup and stuff.
yeah,
But yeah, 97% of the time, this is it.
the professional mask you have to wear. I mean, every open book has to do that. So it's like the time that you close your book and they only see the cover of the book. They don't get to
Yeah.
read between it.
Which for me is very few and far between. So I don't have to worry about that too much. So,
I myself was not an open book until like later on in life. I mean, compared to um, always feeling the judgment of others if I did share a little too much. I mean, even in relationships, even within, I mean, some friends, I would allow them a little bit into my book, but never too much because, the my book was kind of sealed shut being a sensitive person. Like, I can't share those things with people around me. And it was what, 26, around there. It was after I had been able to quit drugs, and I was able to become more of a role model and evidence of possibility of redemption for others, that I became an open book, because that's the only way people will be able to see and be inspired by my story. Because if I left out everything else, um, and if I was just, I'm a good role model now and a mentor, and I got good grades now in college and stuff, there would be no part of that story that is inspiring if I didn't tell all of the darkness in my past. So I became an open book then, but then being an open book, now I have to like worry about who I open up to, how I open up to them. Um, so there is a bit of, and I dealt with this when I went back in college, is like there's certain people that you can be an open book with and certain people you don't want to, because they're either going to lose trust in you, they're going to judge you because they still see the past as the person who you really are. So this, like the stories that I've discussed on being vulnerable, things that I haven't really shared with other people because of you have to be worried about that. You have to know who you're sharing with what and when the right time is for it. Um, Being vulnerable gave me a chance to be a complete open book where I just completely share my stories. Some of them later on I could be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't share that, and I cut it out. But for the most part, I've shared everything. The bad stuff, the good stuff, stuff that I'm not even certain about. But now I'm at a point now though that where I'm now growing as an artist and stuff, and all of this stuff is out there, and not everyone. Now I have that same doubt voice of like, someone goes, "Here's the story you shared here," are they not gonna um, truly respect you when it comes down to what I'm doing with like being vulnerable or my cartoon show? Like the cartoon show, if that does get made, and you know people from whoever buys it, Netflix, Cartoon Network, whoever it is, they're going to go back and look at everything I've done before. They're going to hear these stories. Are they going to actually want to support someone like me who has all this stuff, because it's going to make their name look bad? And now there's that doubt again about being an open book, but I'm still going to be on it for being vulnerable, and through the characters and everything that I write, through my music and everything, because that's the only true way to be authentic, is to actually, in art, to actually express experiences and
I think
stories that you.
that you need to be true to yourself, because if you're not true to yourself, then you have that self doubt. That self doubt will then constantly be there, and you're just living under a constant blanket of stress. Whereas once you get to the point where if you just be yourself, and prime example, there are certain things that I won't discuss with you today, or I have said that I will discuss, but I need to be careful about the way that I discuss it. And it's being careful of the way that you do discuss these things, and not just going bleh. um, but yeah, you've always got to be true to yourself. Otherwise, the stress builds up, and it's not good for you. It's not good for you at all.
It's,
It's bad.
I mean, once I was able to be an open book, I found that more people accept me for my flaws and stuff I've done, and just not more, but people will accept me, and people won't look at who I was, and they'll look at who I am and be able to admire that or honor it, and respect me from the changes that I had made. It is more mentally healthy for that. But now going into this new realm of the world looking at you and not just, or like being a someone that people are going to give money to do something. Like their judgment is a complete different level of just, being here with other musicians and artists talking about our stories. These are the people that can make or break a career for me compared to people that now are like my friends that I can that I know that won't judge me. And yeah.
Still, I think that well, for me, I would still be doing what I do. I'd just be more vigilant about how I did it without adding stress to myself. Does
Um
that make sense? Sometimes I don't make sense.
it it does, but I'm gonna give you a rebuttal. Um
Okay.
Specifically about your poetry and doing music. There's a bit of a closed book for the public on that.
That's that's where it all goes. That's where everything in here goes. That's my coping mechanism. It's my Jesus, my diary, if you will, I suppose. Um,
Which
things
is
haven't always been cupcakes and rainbows for me. I had a really, really bad patch 2 years ago, maybe. Um, I I was in a marriage that wasn't right for me anymore. It was putting a lot of pressure on me at the time. And I was writing a lot of poetry then because that was a thing for me. I was also drawing and stuff, but my drawing is nowhere near what I can do now. That's for sure. And it was an outlet. I was one hospital visit away from being put on suicide watch. Things weren't good. I didn't want to be that person, and I knew that I didn't want to be that person, and I knew that I needed help. There were 3 cases where I had taken myself to the hospital because I knew that that was the safe place for me to be so that things didn't escalate. I was down, but I also had the ability to know that that wasn't what you needed to do. You can get yourself out of this. Things may feel really, really hopeless, but get yourself somewhere safe so you don't do that because you know that's not what you want to do. I think that has a lot to do with my girls more than anything. Like if I didn't have them, I don't know that I would have been in the relationship to begin with. But if they weren't there, then things could have been very different and I might not have been here. I also have a very special friend on Threads, my best mate. And if it wasn't for him supporting me through a lot of this situation, I definitely wouldn't have been here. And I know that 100%. He was my saving grace through the whole lot of it. But then I jumped on Threads because I needed an escape. I needed something. I needed social interaction. I needed something that was mine that wasn't his. So I jumped on Threads and met a few people, and this was all cool, and started interacting with lots of them. And I was talking because at this point in time, I'm getting like 2 and 3 hours sleep. So all of my European threadies, and that's where a lot of my friends had started from, was over there because I'm awake when they're awake, the rest of the world's damn well sleeping because they're all normal people. So one of them that I met was very into AI art and had sort of got me, this is what you should be doing. I'm going to have a go at that. I reckon I can do this. And so I did. And so that's where it had started. And then I'm like, this is so cool. And so I started posting it. And another one of the people that I was friends. We're going to friends. I don't know if there was any friendship there. Was very, very anti-AI. And I can understand this to a point when it's facial recognition sort of stuff and anything that's more serious than fucking art that I was posting, you know, and jumped on this one day and it said, oh, what's with all this art in my feed, da, 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 da. And I went, shit. And because at this point in time, I'm not the person I am now. Now I just go, get fucked, block me, I don't care. I'm going to post what I want to post. But I've been living in a relationship where my voice had become muted. I wasn't as strong as what I am now. If conflict happened, I would shut down and just ignore the situation, let the rant happen. So that's essentially what I did. I went, I don't want to lose his friendship because it's so important. And went, but I don't want to lose this because this is something that I need. I need this in my life. What am I going to do? So I took it off Threads and had popped it into my IG account instead so that it wasn't clogging up his feed, but I still had somewhere to post it. And at the time, I was talking to Freddie and Mainframe and Infinite and Gloryfell. I'm going to roll with those four. The four key factors in all of this. And so I popped this picture up that I'd done. I don't even know if I still have it because my old Instagram account, different to my new one, I lost everything from that. And I went, what song am I going to put with it? And it just happened to be a Mainframe song. And at that point, it clicked for me. Holy shit. What if I was to do artworks that were from or created based upon what I was thinking or feeling at the time of listening to someone's song? And so I, like, excited little brainwave, have smashed out like a DM to, was it Dave from Infinite first? Or was it Freddie? Anyway, doesn't matter. This has just happened, you know, I've done this and what do you think? And I know I could like have a whole new Instagram page and dedicate it especially to your artists because, you know, I want to support you guys, like fucking word vomit like you wouldn't believe, more so than normal. So that's quite serious. And that's where my thoughts came from. Yeah, I started doing these little things. Everyone was well behind it, thought it was a fantastic idea, and yeah, that's where we are now. But I continued on, like, and I still, even if I'm not doing that, my poetry, my art, I've got lyrics for days that will never get made into songs, but they're there. It's all part of me. If I have a really strong emotion, then it gets poured into art. It gets poured into the poetry. And the best thing about it is that if it is something that I don't necessarily want people to know, then there's a good chance that I'm not going to know anyways what's been put in there, why that looks like that, why have I written that? And sometimes people will go, oh, that poem or that bit of writing, da, 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 da. And I'm like, yeah, cool. You can't pick up on anything I'm thinking, and this is fantastic. But it's the outlet that I needed.
Well, thank you everyone for joining this special episode of Being Vulnerable. My name is Chris, aka Carpal Tunnel, and my special
I
guest.
am Paula or Scarlet Devil.
And we hope you enjoyed this episode. And we'll see you next time on Being Vulnerable. Stay safe out there, everyone.